Hi, welcome to my channel. It's me, and in episode 15 of The Dragon Prince, A Crown of Wishes, we get to see the consequences of indecision. As the series hurtles toward its finale, the stakes could not be higher. Let's get started. Our first scene takes place in the Central Lands at a war council in the keep, where Lorcan is trying to convince the Southern Lords to unite against the dead. But he may have picked the wrong audience, because these guys are clearly more concerned with crowns than with the catastrophe unfolding around them. Even when Lorcan says that their gold and crowns won't help them, one lord just scoffs and says they can't bend the will of people who do and even exist. And while it's true that there isn't much evidence of necromancers among the undead hordes, it seems pretty clear that Vord has found some seriously powerful magic to raise entire armies from the dead. So perhaps those people do exist. But the lords just bicker among themselves about how best to divide up the spoils after the war. And so Lorcan throws his hands up in frustration and turns to leave. But before he does, he warns them that their infighting is bringing death closer and that when it comes, they'll wish they had listened to him. As he predicted, the night brings more of the dead, and several lords are killed. Though the series makes it clear that the main reason the lords die is because they refuse to cooperate with Raylan. So I guess that's why this episode is called A Crown of Wishes. We should probably listen to what we ask for. Meanwhile, at the capital, King Adrian is acting erratically, telling his wife, Queen Celine, that his advisors are plotting against him, and she assures him that she'll take care of it once the guards leave. Though, we see that her smile faded and she turned hard. Clearly, she knows that the king is losing his mind, and if something isn't done, he'll destroy everything. She tells the king that he needs rest and sends him off to bed. But once the coast is clear, we see that she begins writing letters with dark purpose in her eyes. In the next scene, we see that she's written to various members of the king's council, inviting them to meet her under the guise of discussing the war effort. The next morning, the king wakes up and immediately demands to know why his council hasn't been executed yet. And while his queen tried to calm him down, we see that she's actually very pleased with how well her plan is going. And she watches with amusement as the guards return bloodied from the throne room. Apparently, she managed to convince the king that his entire council was conspiring against him, and so he ordered them all put to death. And now the throne room is covered in the bodies of his closest advisors. And while the king looks troubled by what he's done, his queen seems to be strangely pleased with herself. We then cut to Elena Dragon as she leads her fleet into port. It's here that she sets foot on the kingdom's soil for the first time, and she's greeted by an assembly of her warriors who hail her as their empress. And while her landing party is quite small, we know that there are likely more forces hidden nearby. And with the power of the primal source flowing through her, she addresses her troops, saying that steel and fire will lead the way and together they will build an empire. Of course, the show has taught us that the primal sources are incredibly powerful and dangerous, but also very childlike and curious. And since Elena has proved capable with her powers, her followers seem confident that she can win the war and unite the kingdoms. Though somewhere in the ruined southern castle, the cat's still up as the undead continue to feast and grow stronger. Meanwhile, across the kingdom, the news of the southern castle falling has reached the ears of some survivors. And while many are afraid, one man in particular hears the news and smiles, believing that his chance to strike at the heart of the enemy is now at hand. The next day, another battle rages in the south as the remnants of the army try to hold out against the undead horde. And while things are looking bad, we see that someone is racing toward the battlefield. And as they approach, we see that they aren't alone, and it looks like they're carrying a wounded comrade with them. And while they eventually make it to the safety of the keep, it's clear that the situation is dire because this man is nearly dead himself. But before he dies, he tells the others that the castle is lost, that the dead are coming, and that they only have days left to live. Back at the capital, King Adrian paces his balcony as his queen walks behind him. And while he talks about how the wars in the south and east are going poorly, she remains ominously silent. When the king asks her if she agrees that the north should be their first priority, she doesn't answer, and instead she motions for him to look out over the city below. She says that he is the realm and that he is eternal, and she hopes that he knows how grateful she is for the gift of the dragons. But as always, she says, there are sacrifices to be made for the good of the whole. And the king looks out over the city, consumed by paranoia. He believes that his advisors were plotting to kill him, and now it looks like he thinks his own wife is working against him, too. However, in reality, Selena has been playing a long game and manipulating the king into making mistakes for some time now. She arranged for the Northern Army to come south to fight because she knew it would tire them out. And then she convinced the king to execute his counsel because she knew they'd be safer in the country. And now she's about to launch her most ambitious plot yet. Meanwhile, across the sea, Elena's spies have infiltrated the Moonshadow fleet and learned of their plan to invade the human kingdoms. And she rallies her forces, preparing to sail west and stop the Moonshadows from reaching the mainland. Though even as she prepares, we see that her followers are growing increasingly uneasy about starting a war with an ancient race of elves. And while Elena insists that she's with them every step of the way, we know that she's really gone to the moon to receive visions from Erebos. Then in a flashback, we see that Vord has finally tracked down Zim, Rail and their dragon guide, Foe, and he offers them a deal. If they give him the egg, he will grant them safe passage out of Zadia. But when Zim refuses, Vord attacks. In the ensuing battle, Vord proves too powerful, and while Regal fights bravely, it looks like Vord is about to finish him off when suddenly a familiar voice interrupts. We pan up to see a dragon dive out of the sky and land between them. It's Elena's dragon, and she wastes no time diving toward Vord, knocking him off balance and allowing Rayla to get away. And while Vord manages to fend off the dragon for a moment, it soon becomes clear that he's never fought a dragon before. And he quickly finds himself knocked out of the sky and forced to flee. And while he gets away, it's clear that the tide of the war is turning, and with the return of Elena Dragon, the undead have found their match. But with that, we're at the end of the episode. What did you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you want to hear more about this amazing show, check out the rest of my content. Thank you so much for watching. I'm your host, and we'll see you next time with the Dragon Prince.